Mukesh, we can't hear you.
Uh, Wait, let me share my screen first. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Mr. Mukesh, we can see.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Bhavan. My name is Mukesh Tongol, and as introduced by Vasanta, we were together in the same university back in Japan, the International University of Japan, where we completed our MBA program. So I would like to welcome you all in my presentation. The presentation for today, the topic for today is Framework for Entrepreneurship Policy Development. So in this presentation, what I have set agenda is that there are 2 points that I would like to discuss in this presentation. One is the global trends in entrepreneurship. We need to understand what are the trends, what are the current, contemporary, and emerging trends that's ongoing in the entrepreneurship world globally and regionally, so that we can frame our policies in such a way that it becomes aligned with these developing scenarios. And number 2, then we will jump into this framework for entrepreneurship policy development. We'll look into some of the policy frameworks given by United Nations conference on trade and development, and also by OECD. Then we will also look into some of the best practices and also some of the conducive environment produced by some of the SME policies and practices in the entrepreneurship world, especially in the advanced economies in US, Japan, and Korea. So firstly, the global trends. So what's happening in the entrepreneurship world? What's happening in the small and medium enterprises? What are the trends? Where the world of entrepreneurship is going right now? So when you look into this emerging trends, the contemporary trends right now, we can clearly see the 4 areas.
Sorry, Mukesh, I think we cannot see your slides. How about others?
I think that's why I was asking you before. When I share my screen, there is some problem. Maybe, can you see it now? Can you see my screen?
It's okay now. We can see.
Now it's okay.
Yes, we can see now.
Yes.
Let me share just like this, because I am a guest in this meeting. Because of that, I think when I go full screen, then it again goes out. Okay. So there are 4 areas where we can currently see the world is going when it comes to the entrepreneurship. The first one is the digital business transformation. We can see around the globe that the world is going to be digital. We are very near now because of this IT revolution, the innovation. Now, currently, all the startups are talking about big data, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and we are actually going into this industry 4.0, where there are digital payments, and the emergence of fintech industry and the digital transition is happening right now. All the non-digital entrepreneurs are also transforming themselves into this digital world. So this is what's happening right now. We will see some of the examples as well in later slides. The number 2 is sustainability. The world is looking for sustainable development. We can clearly see from the higher level policymakers in the UN, we have these sustainable development goals, SDGs. There is a talk about net zero in every industries right now. So we are also seeing some kinds of transition, not only digitally, but also in terms of sustainable development. So there is a lot of talk about decarbonization, green transition, and circular economy, or circularity as well. So these 2 areas are something the world is actually striving to achieve its target. So these two areas, actually, the entrepreneurs are also focusing much these days. The number three is obviously diversity and inclusion. The world is also talking about gender issues, the women entrepreneurship, and the issues of minority and marginal groups. And again, the disruptions. We can clearly see the disruptions that's happening in the world right now, maybe due to environmental issues like climate change. We have seen the health issues like COVID-19, the recession that's happening in the world, and also due to some kind of economic and socio-political situations like in Ukraine situation, which has hampered the world. So these kinds of disruptions also actually impact the entrepreneurship ecosystem and the climate. So these are some of the emerging trends that I would like to discuss at first. So number one, let's go into the digital environment. We can clearly say that the world is going for the digital environment. The ICT and the digitization revolution has lots of impacts in everyday world right now. So a conducive digital environment promotes entrepreneurship. So we can clearly see the differences between the digital entrepreneurs and the non-digital entrepreneurs, because digital entrepreneurs are actually outperforming the non-digital peers in this world right now. So for digital environment to foster in our economies, we actually need some sound institutions and policies. So we need such kinds of policies which actually help us to foster these kinds of environment. So we can see from the slide also the application of IT and the ICT and the AI in different areas, from networking with business partners to online marketing and sales. Everything is going online these days. So in each and every sector of the business and management, we can clearly see that digital environment is actually creating a different world. So if you go to the next trend, again, the sustainability, we can clearly see that the past fortunes, the past entrepreneurships are based on the fossil fuel-based economy. The very first billionaire in the history was made on the backdrop of the Standard Oil, followed by the dynasties built on this fossil fuel-based economy and emissions. So we can clearly see the oil tycoons, industrialists, or the car titans make up more than a quarter of the world's 500 richest people. But the world is going to change now. So the world is actually changing now, and this fossil fuel-based economy is changing into the sustainable fortunes and green economy. So green wealth is something that is on top right now, and it is highly dependent on the success of these innovative technologies. So we can see some kind of shift in investors actually. So they are making increasingly making investments in sustainability principles, which are central to their strategies right now. So which can also be seen in some climate investment scenarios. So the climate change, what we are talking about, the impact of climate change in the world. So we can clearly see that the venture capital investment in this climate innovation is 5 times faster than the average rate of investment across all industries. So this is where the finance is going right now. So we can clearly see from 2013 to 2019, there's a huge rapid growth in the climate investment as well. So during the conference of parties in COP26, 450 firms actually controlling around 40% of the global assets, about $130 trillion, would align to the Paris climate agreement of lowering our average global warming limit to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So because of these commitments, these investments, the entrepreneurship mindset is going in this direction. That's why we can clearly see that there is a new terminologies in entrepreneurships or in this business environment, which we call green billionaires. There has been billionaires in the past based on fossil fuel economy, but the innovation and the transition is going on, where we can clearly see that there are actually the billionaires we can see from renewable technologies, the green financing, and the climate investment. So there are 34 billionaires right now stemming from these clean energy technologies. So the next big success stories that we will see in future could be coming from green finance, green technologies, renewable energies, low carbon cities, energy efficient technologies. And when it comes to management of forest and agriculture, then there might be someone coming up with innovative ideas in sustainable forest management or climate smart agriculture. So these are some of the areas actually which are growing rapidly. And there are technologies in climate innovations like carbon capture technologies. I mean, the one working on the emission mitigation and adaptation, actually, they are actually getting a lot of attention these days when it comes to becoming an entrepreneur in this sector. So let us look at some of the attributes of entrepreneurs. Forbes in 2015 actually conducted a survey covering large number of organizations and entrepreneurs, where they rated some of the attributes of entrepreneurs. So top 5 attributes actually were reported to be the vision of the entrepreneur, the work ethic, the resilient nature of the entrepreneurs, the positive mindset, and the passion of the entrepreneurs. So the respondents from the entrepreneurship world actually attributed these 5 attributes are really important to becoming an entrepreneur. And why do the policymakers need to know this? Because as a policymaker, we should understand the mindset of the entrepreneurs. What are the skills? What are the mindset? What are the inherent qualities of the entrepreneurs, which we need to actually lay down in our policies so that it becomes compatible with the entrepreneurship mindset and our policies, so that we can foster the entrepreneurship culture and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in our respective countries. Again, in 2021, also in one of the surveys conducted by the Forbes, the skills that are required to become an entrepreneur includes determination, risk-taking behavior, optimism, curiosity, and the problem-solving nature, the confidence, and adaptability to change. These are some kinds of skills that are in train, or that needs to be in entrepreneur. So again, looking at one of the prominent studies done by Kaufman Foundation in 2009, these are some of the factors that are most important to the entrepreneurial success. The prior work experience in the relevant industries was rated by 96% of the respondents. Then the lessons learned from the previous successes, 89% respondents said that this is important, and 82% said that companies, management team as a team is very important. The entrepreneurship culture doesn't foster in a single environment. So it is actually a teamwork, the team culture, this team spirit. So how can we actually foster those kinds of skills in our future, in our generations to come, and how can we foster these kinds of knowledge with our students right now is also very important to enhance our entrepreneurship culture in our countries. So again, if you look at the survival rates of the establishment, this is quite interesting. The entrepreneurs actually do not get success in a single shot. They learn, they fall down, they learn again and again, and they survive in this business world, this competitive landscape. There are always new entrants. There are always threats of economic downturn or disruptions, maybe because of the climate change, or disruptions in the economic and financial system. So there are competitors coming up every time because of this innovation. Or the strategies, new marketing or financial strategies are coming up every day. So there are always the competition, and there are always some kinds of disruptions happening in the business world. So if you look at this, this one of the resource which actually collected the data on survival rates of establishment by year started, and the years since starting from 1994 to 2016 actually, done by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, clearly shows that there are lots of entrepreneurs who actually fail. So now, in year one, 21.5% of the entrepreneurs they fail. And it is not the case. It is not only the case in the initial years. Even after the 10 years of resistance and survival in the market, 66.5% of them actually fail. So that's why what we need to understand from this is that the entrepreneur to foster the entrepreneurship culture, to develop the entrepreneurship skill, the governments around the world should give the conducive environment. So how can we give that conducive environment? How can we foster our entrepreneurship mindset is very important. So next slide, this shows the entrepreneurship process, how those potentials that we talked about in our previous slides, like the entrepreneurship mindset, the entrepreneurship culture, and what are the qualities or attributes that are important to become an entrepreneur, and how they conceive their ideas into the real world environment. They give birth to the business, and how it can be persisted for a longer period of time, becoming an owner manager. So while they are developing it, they are nascent entrepreneurs. So they become owner manager of a new business. They become, after a long period of persistence and struggle, they become owner manager of an established business, and they actually get exit from the business, or also they can merge into the big tycoon in the business and become the existing business, the prevalent one. So this way the entrepreneurship actually fosters in the environment. Now let's see some of the impacts of the entrepreneurship. We all know that for any country, the entrepreneurship actually drives the economy. It is also crucial for vibrant formal SMEs business, and it provides business solutions to many of these our current societal and environmental problems, and generate social gains, not only the private gains. So beyond private gains, they also have some societal impacts in our societies and countries. So while looking at these global trends in the entrepreneurship and the process of entrepreneurship and the impact that the entrepreneurship can bring in our countries, so we should also understand the role of the government. So what can governments actually do? What are the things governments should focus on while developing such policies when it comes to developing entrepreneurship mindset, entrepreneurship skills, and entrepreneurship ecosystem? So proactive role of governments in supporting entrepreneurship actually requires a systematic approach. Different countries have different kinds of approaches when it comes to formulating policies relating to entrepreneurship. There should be the coordination and coherence in our policies and in our institutional arrangements. When you look at these policies, they are really fragmented. Lots of countries have policies. They are really fragmented. Why? Because if you need some tax subsidies for the entrepreneurs, we need to go to Ministry of Finance. When we look at the industry level policies, we need to go to Ministry of Industries or Ministry of Commerce. Or when you need some support, maybe you need to go to some local or provincial government. So there are some kind of vertical and horizontal mismatch. So we need some kind of coordination and coherence when it comes to these SME policies. So we need to get benefits from the synergies of these policies. Synergies in the sense that the isolated policies may not bring the required benefits and maximize the economic and social growth. So whole of the government approach is actually required with the strong commitment at the top ministerial level and coordination across ministries, and also the partnership with private sectors, the society's stakeholders, including academia, NGOs, and community organizations, so that we can develop effective entrepreneurial ecosystem. Okay, this is about what actually the current trends in the entrepreneurship world is. So let me quickly go into the second part of my presentation, actually, which is framework for entrepreneurship policy development. In this section, what I'm trying to explain is discuss is the basic two frameworks developed by one UN and another is OECD So let's discuss. Actually, there are lots of materials on the internet, but let's discuss on these frameworks. So we already have seen that despite the importance of the entrepreneurship policies, so entrepreneurship is not always actively encouraged in all developing countries like us through dedicated policy initiatives. So how can we actually develop dedicated policies? What are the factors that we should look into? What are the effective indicators that we should actually look into? What are the questions that we need to ask ourselves before formulating such policies? So number one framework I would like to talk about is the entrepreneurship policy framework and implementation guidance given by UN Conference on Trade and Development. So this framework actually tries to identify the key elements of an entrepreneurship policy and formulating action plans. It also helps us to design the initiatives, measures, and institutions, and identifies policy objectives and options in the form of recommended actions and proposes checklist, case studies, and good practices. What are the good practices in different world? And it also offers methods for policy monitoring and evaluation through a set of indicators to measure progress of our policies. So this is the basic framework this is the key components in the framework. So this is a 6-step process given by UNCD regarding this entrepreneurship policy development. Number one is formulating national entrepreneurship strategy. Number two is optimizing the regulatory environment. Number three, enhancing entrepreneurship education and skills development. Number four, facilitating technology and exchange and innovation. Number five is improving access to finance. And number six is promoting awareness and networking. So let me just quickly go through these points. Like number one is formulating a national entrepreneurship strategy. So our policy objectives should analyze we should identify actually what are our country-specific challenges. What are the challenges a country like Nepal or Sri Lanka face? Because we have different scenarios maybe. So all the SME policies or entrepreneurship policies are basically actually country-specific based on the challenges and issues of the country. Then we should specify our goals and set priorities. We should ensure the coherence of entrepreneurship strategy with our other national policies. As I said before, our tax policies, subsidy policies, our education policies, actually these should be coherent to develop the entrepreneurship culture in the country and strengthen the institutional framework and then measure results. So these are the set of questions. Actually, these are really small for you maybe to look at, but these are some of the questions that are the checklist of key questions for formulating national entrepreneurship strategy. And there are many various ways of measuring the effectiveness. Maybe the possible indicators could be survival rates of the entrepreneurs, share of total startups in the total target area, or share of total startups in the target groups such as women, youth, minorities, rural population, or job growth rate, the job opportunities created by the startups, or revenue generated and taxes paid by the startups. So these actually measure success of entrepreneurs in starting and sustaining business, the economic impact of the entrepreneurship. These are some of the indicators for this very first step called formulating a national entrepreneurship strategy. The second one would be optimizing the regulatory environment. Again, the country-specific regulatory environment, examine regulatory requirements for startups, minimize regulatory hurdles for business startups, and build entrepreneurship confidence in the regulatory environment, and guide entrepreneurs through a startup administrative process and enhance the benefits of formation. Again, these are some of the checklists and the key indicators for number two step, optimizing the regulatory environment. So here the indicators are really interesting. Number of procedures to open a business in a country, number of agencies involved, number of days cost to start or close a business, number of days cost to register a title to property, or timeliness of dispute resolution mechanism, number of days from filing to judicial decision. So these actually measure the effectiveness of our judicial system, ease of starting or closing a business. So these actually give a country-specific criteria for developing our SMEs policies or startup policies, or let's say entrepreneurship policy. So if you look at some of the Sri Lankan indicators from the data, that's what I found. Maybe this has been updated in your country data, but this gives us a picture of Sri Lanka's entrepreneurship status. So if you look at the region-wise, actually South Asia scores the lowest after Sub-Saharan Africa on the ease of doing business index continuously for the year 2019 and 2020 as well. So if you look at the Sri Lankan data, again the Sri Lanka this doing business index 2020, its objectives measures of it is a measure of business regulations and their enforcement across 190 economies and selected cities at the sub-national and regional level. So Sri Lanka stands at 99 out of 190 economies around the globe, and there are 10 indicators for measuring doing business index done by the World Bank Group. So the indicators includes starting a business, dealing with construction permit, getting electricity, and these are the scores. These are the ranks actually out of 190 economies. So you can see in various indicators, Sri Lanka performs in different ways. Maybe enforcing contracts is some of the weak areas of Sri Lanka. Again, paying taxes, it ranks 142. There are some very good indicators like protecting minority investors. Sri Lanka stands at 28th position in the world. So there are some strengths and there are some weaknesses. So our policies actually should address these sort of indicators or these sort of perceptions to improve the entrepreneurship culture. Again, these are just the details of the doing business index. So starting a business indicator scores 88.2. Okay, dealing with construction permit score 72.3. So these are some of the scores which are good for Sri Lanka, but there are some scores which are on the weaker side where actually our policies should address those. So again, when you look at the South Asian standard, Sri Lanka outperforms other South Asian counterparts in number of indicators like starting a business, dealing with construction permits. Okay. For example, registering a property in Sri Lanka is at number 1 position in this indicator, whereas in some other indicators like enforcing contracts, Sri Lanka is at the lower side. So there are different indicators where Sri Lanka performs good, and in some indicators Sri Lanka is not performing good. So that's where our policies actually should intervene to improve these situations. So if you look at another index, Global Innovation Index, GII 2022, again, there are 7 pillars, 7 indicators. In some areas, Sri Lanka stands really good, like knowledge and technology outputs. It ranks 66 out of 132 countries. This Global Innovation Index is an annual ranking of countries by their capacity for and success in innovation, and it is published by World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. This is the latest data for it. Okay, so it stands at 85. The index is 85. So these are some of the comparisons with the counterparts, with the top 10, with the lower income, and the Central and Southern Asian countries in different indicators for Sri Lanka. So again, it's just a repetition. There are some strengths where Sri Lanka is performing really well, and there are some areas which needs government intervention through our SME and entrepreneurship policies and subsequent other policies. So we also talk about sustainability. So I just want to quickly show you one slide regarding the green finance integration. So Sri Lanka and Nepal actually they are at the same page. So we are still at the developing phase, or now maybe we are advancing. Data is quite it is from 2019. So we are developing some green financing strategies or our financing mechanisms for green solutions. So when you look at the Global Entrepreneurship Index for Sri Lanka, again, Global Entrepreneurship and Development Index, GI, is an annual index that measures the health of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And it has been conducted in around 137 countries. And it ranks the performance against each other. So this also provides the picture of where we stand. So in some areas like product innovation, the score is really good for Sri Lanka, and there are some areas again where we need improvement, like risk acceptance, networking, cultural support, technology absorption, or risk capital. So these are the areas maybe where we need more interventions when it comes to government policies. Again, the last index that I would like to show is like Global Index of Digital Entrepreneurship Systems. GIDS, it measures the quality of environment for digital entrepreneurs. And we talk about the digital entrepreneurship, the digital business transformation as one of the contemporary trends. So it captures the degree of digitalization in society and the economy and how it supports the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Again, stand-up system is the early stage, startup system is the middle stage, and scale-up system is the later stages of entrepreneurship. And in all these three areas, actually, the South Asian countries, including Sri Lanka, are at the tail enders. So these are the scores and these are the ranks for Sri Lanka. It is given by the ADP, and 100 out of 113 countries, Sri Lanka stands at 80 in early stage entrepreneurship, 83 in startups, and 82 in scale up. So this is again done by ADB. So all the indicators that I've shown here actually shows the picture of what we are currently standing at and what we need to do to improve this situation. So again we are at the UNCAD framework. So number 3 is enhancing entrepreneurship education and skill development. Here again, what are the policy objectives? What should be the policy objectives? Embedded entrepreneurship in formal and informal education is one priority. Another is develop effective entrepreneurship curriculum. Again, developing curriculum in primary and secondary education and incorporating these sort of concepts early in the student life is important. Training teachers to deliver in this sector is also important, and partner with the private sectors is also important. So there are some of the questions. Again, you can look later on when I share the slides. So there are some of the indicators to measure again the effectiveness. For example, share of secondary schools offering entrepreneurship programs, extracurricular activities, share of technical vocational schools offering entrepreneurship programs, and number of annual spin-ups from universities or research programs. So this is number 3 point for this framework. Number 4 is facilitating technology exchange and innovation. In similar way, number 5 is improving access to finance, and these are the policy objectives. And in these, we measure the share of microfinance, average value of collateral required for SME loans, total venture capitalist investment in capital invest in SMEs, and these are some of the indicators for access to finance. Number 6, promoting awareness and networking, which is again very important in our societies. The entrepreneurship is not promoted well, so that's why the countries should have policies of making people aware about entrepreneurship and what are the facilities that they could actually have from the government, the subsidies, the tax rebates, and so on. So for this, highlight the value of entrepreneurship to society and address negative cultural biases, raise awareness, again, stimulate private sector-led initiatives. So here, what are the indicators for the policies? Result of opinions, number of business associations devoted to women, youth, rural entrepreneurs, and so on. So this is the framework given by the UNCAD. So by using it, actually, we can actually test our current policies so that, we can see what are the areas that actually needs improvement, and which areas actually we need transition, and which areas we are doing good. We need to understand this as a country. And number 2 framework today that I would like to talk about is the framework of OECD, where actually the advanced economies and the most of the developed nations economic policies are analyzed, and based on that they have given recommendation on SME and entrepreneurship policy. So it is an evidence-based and holistic framework, and it also supports in developing coherent, efficient and effective SME and entrepreneurship policies. By learning from the experiences of developed nations, the advanced economies, and their entrepreneurship policies, we can also develop some sort of policies based on our country's specific situation, so that we can foster their contribution to inclusive and sustainable growth again. And there are 3 pillars that they talk about in this framework. Number 1 is policy coordination and governance. Number 2, transitions and resilience. And number 3, again, assessing resources. So resources in terms of finance, talent, and so on. So these are the principles actually given by the OECD for developing policies. The policies relating to coordination and governance, and the principles relating to transition and resilience. The transition in terms of digital transformation, green transition, internationalization, business dynamics and startup and innovative entrepreneurship, and so on. Okay, and again in the principles related to access to resources, innovation, finance, skills, the entrepreneurship mindset, the talents that we need for entrepreneurship, and the ecosystem networks and public procurement. So this whole picture actually gives the picture of where we should actually focus on while developing our policies and while implementing our policies. So that's why there are 3 types of interventions that they talk about. One is to aim to improve institutional conditions for entrepreneurship. For that, we need initiatives for the development of an entrepreneurship culture, a favorable tax and regulatory framework for entrepreneurs, and favorable competitive conditions, and offer direct support to entrepreneurs and startup businesses through training and education programs, provision of information advice, and that is where one of the most important things come up, like coaching and mentoring, which is actually vital for developing entrepreneurship and supporting entrepreneurship conducive to growth, such as innovation and internationalization. So we need to take a holistic approach and support the development of entrepreneurship ecosystem here. And there are 3 dimensions for SME policies for OECD countries. Actually, they have divided this into like type of strategic framework. What type of strategic framework are we actually pursuing? There are actually 3 types. Like what type of strategic framework is in place? Is the policy framework a well-defined corpus of policy, as for instance articulated in a self-standing policy document, or is it part of a broader policy framework, for instance industrial policy? Okay, and another is the main objectives, scope and types of policies and governance that I will talk in my next slide. So 3 types of SME policy frameworks actually exist in OECD countries. The number 1 is the countries with SME strategies. They have specific SME strategies. I mean the strategies that are catered for the SME promotion and development. And there are countries with annual or multi-annual action plans or other dedicated documents on SME and entrepreneurship policies. And lastly, there are countries where SME and entrepreneurship policies are part of the wider strategies and policy frameworks. Okay, so based on these 3 frameworks, there are actually, we can classify the countries. And when it comes to objectives and type of policy framework, some countries actually focus on certain types of objectives when it comes to SME policies. Like there are most of the countries, when they formulate and implement the SME and entrepreneurship policies, they talk about the enhancing competitiveness, growth, innovation and digitalization, followed by entrepreneurship and fostering new ventures. And some talk about also the creation of job and employment as the primary objective of the policy. And some other countries also include wider and societal goals and sustainability as their agenda or objective in their policies. So let us look into some of the policies and practices. Let's look into the USA. Actually, USA started their policies pretty early. In 1953, they had an institution called United Nations Small Business Administration, which is abbreviated as SBA, and they actually started 4 programmatic functions: access to capital, business financing for where they did micro lending, debt and equity investment through venture capital. Then they have entrepreneurship development culture through education, information, technical assistance, and training to the citizens, where they actually foster individual face-to-face and internet counseling with more than 900 locations. So this is where they develop their entrepreneurship. And number 3 is government contracting. In every federal procurement, they have a statutory goal of 23% allocation for small businesses. Again, which fosters the entrepreneurship environment and mindset in the country. And advocacy, they have a voice for small businesses where they also assess the impact of regulatory burden on the behalf of small business research, and also they conduct research on American small business and the small business environment. I mean, what they are trying to do here is that they are giving ample opportunities and environment for their entrepreneurship development and promotion. Okay, when it comes to Japan, actually provide entrepreneurship policy implementation through their agencies. They have where the policy coordination is done by the Ministry of Economy and Industries, Trade and Industries. They have a SME agency under that, and they execute and coordinate Japanese SME policies. So METI and the local prefecture cooperate to ensure vertical coherence of policy delivery. So prefectural government also they collaborate with the central government to support the entrepreneurs. They have credit guarantee corporations. They have Japan finance corporations to assess resources for the entrepreneurs. And when it comes to Korea, and it is very interesting case when it comes to Korea, actually, they started in 2017 a dedicated ministry and minister for SMEs and startups called MSS, Ministries for SMEs and Startups. So they actually have a cabinet minister for startups and entrepreneurs who has the exclusive and dedicated responsibility for SME and startup portfolio. So this actually increased the visibility of SME portfolio in the region, and SME responsibilities are represented explicitly during government ministerial meetings. So this clearly shows that how much does government emphasis SMEs and entrepreneurs in their policies and also in their institutional arrangements. So let me conclude now. So this clearly shows that the policies should target both entrepreneurial hardware and software. We also need to foster the mindset and the soft skills, and also we need to have some institutions and policies that provides conducive environment for entrepreneurs in our region. So number 1 would be policymakers enable entrepreneurship indirectly, but importantly, policymakers are not the final people who make decisions on entrepreneurship, but they actually help entrepreneurs to have a conducive environment indirectly. So creating an institutional, digital, and broader environment which is actually in alignment with the entrepreneurship mindset and skills, and nurturing our talented individuals so that they can grow entrepreneurs, the small-scale startups, into a huge gazelles and unicorns later on. And improving entrepreneurship ecosystems will take a lot of work, actually. It is, especially in our region and in our countries, we need plenty of scope for improving the quality of entrepreneurship climate. And there is a need for tailored policies on entrepreneurship and digitalization. So both hardware and software upgrades should be done. So wide range of elements from a high-speed broadband. I mean, developing these kinds of digital environment to strong rule of law. I mean, the governance should be there as well, and culture and informal institutions improve perceptions of entrepreneurship. And there should also be some kind of thinking, and there should be the understanding that one side doesn't fit all. All the frameworks that we discussed today, and it may not directly fit if we directly copy paste or just imitate those frameworks into our environment. We may need to conceptualize our environment, then adopt and adapt accordingly. So we cannot just imitate it. We need to understand our environment, our working culture, our spirit of development, and then actually develop our SMEs. And for that, we need consensus building among all our stakeholders, from the government policymakers to the stakeholders in the private sector, the community organizations, and the business associations, and ensuring coherence of policies. Again, we need some kind of policy coherence while designing it, developing it, and implementing it. It is one of the basic challenges, a key challenge of SME policy frameworks. So how do you control it? How we do our coordination, and how can we mainstream our SME considerations and perspectives in policy designs? So optimal SME policy framework is, and what its objective instruments or government should be doing is another key point. And policy choices largely reflect national circumstances and preferences. Again, one side doesn't fit all, and ensure greater coherence in SMEs and entrepreneurship policies emerges as a priority. So that should be our priority. How can we actually have a policy which will cater the mindset of the entrepreneur, the culture of the entrepreneur, and the traits of the entrepreneur, so that they can perform better in our environment. Thank you so much for listening. Bata Stuti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukesh. And it is very enlightening lecture for us. Actually, now we can move to a question and answers session from Mr. Mukesh. And if you have any questions, you can raise now, or you can put into our chat box. So we have another 10 minutes to discuss question and answers. Right.
It's 15 hours.
Meantime, Mukesh, I would like to, thank you, TD and Pranandu, Duminda Pranandu. So, according to him, he said, thank you, Mukesh San, for your contribution for this webinar. I like to ask you more idea or suggestion about for how entrepreneurship policy can mitigate to economic crisis, especially know that now we are in crisis situation, now we are in recurring situation. So at this stage, his question is how entrepreneurship policy can mitigate to economic crisis. So
yeah, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Duminda, for the question, and I would also like to thank Ida for having me here today. Hello. So
yes,
yeah,
okay.
I would like to say that there can be two solutions. So one short term actually government can foster entrepreneurs to have investments mindset in such kinds of entrepreneur of fields where there are short term returns. we can actually foster them by giving some kinds of subsidies and tax rebate in the area where there are.
Mukesh, your microphone is not clear to us.
I am not muted. Can you hear me now?
No, it's like interrupted your connection.
Okay. So there might be two solutions, one short term and one long term. For short term, I think government should actually uh, promote the entrepreneurs in areas where there are short-term returns to deal with the economic crisis. When we look at long-term implications, actually governments should actually work on fostering the conducive environment, the education, the culture, and the finance. These three things are very important. I again want to correct myself. The two things, the entrepreneurship education and developing the entrepreneurial mindset is very important. Have that, then actually they can actually access the finance from various world, from different private equity investors, uh, and also from these venture capitalists. So these are the areas actually I think the government should focus on. The longer term basis, the education is very important.
Yes, please, audience, if you have any other question, you can raise now from Mr. Mukesh. Uh, yes, Mukesh, and I also like to ask one your suggestion. As we learned in Japan, actually we learned that we follow some courses in leaders in Japan. So we saw that in Japan, very poor person finally end up with billionaires, right? We observed that how Japan, especially finance system, help to them to grow. So accordingly, so what do you think about how our banking system and finance system to change to help or to enhance our entrepreneurs? Because there are many entrepreneurs who do not have initial capital and who do not have sometimes legal protections to survive their business. So I think same culture may we can observe in even Nepal and Sri Lanka and all South Asian countries. So how we can change these situations?
That is a very interesting question, Vasanta. Thank you for the question. So there are two things I think again in this answer. So number one is again priority areas. The government should understand what are their strategic areas where actually that country can develop entrepreneurs very pretty easily. For example, in case of Nepal and I think also in case of Sri Lanka, the agriculture and tourism are primary prospects where we can have a competitive advantage. So there we can actually, looking at the trends of the entrepreneurship culture right now, we can invest there. When it comes to banking and finance, again, there should be some sort of allocation for there should be some sort of allocation by the banks. In case of Nepal, banks are investing in the areas where there are higher yields. Yeah, for it's for the corporate thing they will do that, but there are also some kinds of policies adopted by the banks where they actually need certain percent of their investment to be channeled in the areas like agriculture, tourism, and in Nepal, there is one policy where if you graduate from the university and if you want to be an entrepreneur, then they can get loan on the basis of the certificates. The banks, they need to put certificates as the collateral and issue loans to the entrepreneurs if they have a very good business proposal and entrepreneurial skills. So these sorts of policies actually help to channel our finance to the prospective entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you so much. So then, due to time being, I would like to invite our second resource person, Dr. Neil Saman Kumara. So, Dr. Neil Saman Kumara, hand over to you to continue. So, he will discussing about contribution of Sri Lanka SOEs for entrepreneurial development in Sri Lanka. Right.
Thank you, Vasanta. Good evening to us. So first, let me share my screen. Vasanta, can you see my screen? Vasanta, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see
But,
your screen, and you are not still open your percentage.
I see.
Yes, perfect. We can see your
Okay. Thank
percentage.
you. Thank you. So my topic is the contribution of state-owned enterprises for entrepreneurship development in Sri Lanka. So, yes, this is how I organized my presentation today. So first of all, I will give some definitions before coming to my topic. So then the global entrepreneurship monitor. Thereafter, I will explain a little bit about functions of entrepreneur. Then entrepreneurship and economic development, followed by stages of entrepreneurship. So thereafter, I will explain a little bit about what is the enterprise development policy, and then enterprise development policy in Sri Lanka. So thereafter, entrepreneurship development policy, I compare with the developing country context. Then finally, I will conclude by giving challenges to implement entrepreneurship development policy in Sri Lanka. This is how I organized my presentation today. So first, we'll move to the definition. So when you look at Gardner and others define the entrepreneurial intention. So the intention is very important because you know that because without having an intention, you can't do anything. All other things comes thereafter. So intention, Gardner defined that forming an intention to develop entrepreneurial career is the first step in the long process of venture creation. So and then Moriano and others explained that defined entrepreneurial intention as the conscious state of mind that precedes action. So then, so this is very important part. Why I am saying that, for an example, so you know that we all know that Alexander Graham Bell. So he initially developed the basic model of the telephone. If he didn't invent that the basic model of the telephone during that time, so we may not have using these sophisticated mobile phones currently we are using. So therefore, invention is important, and invention is very difficult. So thereafter, once you create the idea, so other things are very easy. Then modification, other things very easy. So then we'll move to the next slide. Right, then we'll see entrepreneurs. The people who create and grow business are the entrepreneurs. So, and then according to Abekon, entrepreneur is an innovative person who maximizes profit by following new strategies or ventures into new products or services. So then we'll see what's entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is process by which entrepreneurs create and grow businesses. So those are the definitions. I will just briefly explain just to know about those things before moving my topic. So then the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, so we call it GEM. So GEM is also a monitoring arm. It's like monitoring arm that was first concepted in 1997. So by two academics, one from London Business School and one from Babson College. Babson College is considered as one of the one of the best college for MBAs. MBA program for entrepreneurship. So then, but that time it was not a famous topic. I like the entrepreneurship is not not a famous topic than today. So during their first report they published it 1999, and during that time they had only 10 countries. So that is eight OECD countries and Japan and United States. So but today it has developed more than 100 countries. So if you just Google search, you can find out what is GEM and what are the so you can find how they reports for each country's entrepreneurship development process and policies. So you can see if you Google see just saying Global Enterprise Monitor, so you can see all reports. So I just mentioned that one also. Then we'll move to the next one. So this is the entrepreneurial ecosystem. That means infrastructure. So you can see that in this case, 6 ecosystem domains. It includes both human capital and physical capital. That means finance. That means human capital, physical capital, and then human capital is also there. The markets are there. Culture, support services, leadership. So all these are ecosystems. So without these systems, we can't survive. We can't talk about the entrepreneurship or the industrial sector. So then we'll see next function of an entrepreneur. So first function is we have to identify, as I said, first initial intention. So we have to first identify the opportunity. So that's the most difficult part. Once you identify the opportunity, the other things can be done easily. So then the second one is identification of new products. So once you have identified, then you can find out the products. So then thereafter gathering resources. And finally, developing new markets. So this is important thing, entrepreneurship and economic development. So you can see that in the middle, entrepreneurship. So then because of the entrepreneurship, your wealth, you can create your wealth, and then you can create job opportunities. Your community will develop because of that entrepreneurship policy, entrepreneurship development, and then you can increase your export, and you can increase your GDP per capita income. Ultimately, you can improve your standard of living. So then this is very important topic today. So next we'll see the stages. So the first stage is business idea. So as I said, this is the first step is very difficult part. Once you have the business idea and once you discover the certain things through the research and development, other things, then the next step is very easy. So then next, after discovering, then you should prepare a business plan. So then after preparing the business plan, so you have to think about the funding, how you can raise money, how you can raise capital for doing the business, So then after that, you have to get your customers. So then that means you have to create a company. So you have to manage the company. Then finally, you can get the outcome. So you can harvest. That means the results. So then now we'll move to this part. But this is what is entrepreneurship development. So entrepreneurship development refers to process of promoting and supporting the creation and growth of new business or ventures. It includes various activities. So the entrepreneurship development includes several activities. So as I mentioned that at the initial stage, you have to create business ideas, and you have to find fundings, and you have to find business, you have to prepare a business plan, and then so many things. So then, according to Abekon, in entrepreneurship development, he defined as the infrastructure of public and private policies and practices that foster and support entrepreneurship. So this involves equipping a person with required information and knowledge that used for the building and polishing his entrepreneurial skills. So then it also plays an important role in promoting social and economic development, particularly in developing countries. Entrepreneurship development can take place at different levels. It can be at individual level, organization level, and systemic level. So this is the most relevant part for our case, entrepreneurship development policy in Sri Lanka. So in fact, Sri Lanka, we have developed various policies to promote entrepreneurship development in the country. So as I explained earlier, so this is a little new topic for us. So as the first stage in 2018, we introduced the Ministry of Industry and Commerce introduced National Entrepreneurship Policy. So that was the first we organized as the policy. We introduced this the entrepreneurship development as a policy through this National Entrepreneurship Policy. So then thereafter SME credit guarantee schemes. So under that, we facilitate access to finance for, especially for small and medium enterprises by providing credit guarantees to commercial banks and also to government banks to encourage lending to small and medium enterprises. For example, agriculture, industries, and other small and medium enterprises. So in this case, SME and credit guarantee system will be implemented by the General Treasury. In fact, the Department of Development Finance. So they are the responsibility with the credit guarantee schemes and other things, especially for SME sector. So then National Enterprise Development Authority, NEDA. So the NEDA also provides services such as business registration, training, and access to finance and other things relevant to the entrepreneurship development. And then BOI, next BOI. BOI also, that provides support, especially for export-oriented businesses. So, and then finally government support. That so the government by time through their budgets, they provide tax holidays for new businesses and tax holidays for certain agricultural fields, and sometimes they provide loan schemes and grants for entrepreneurship development in specific sectors, especially for tourism and agriculture in Sri Lanka. So now we'll move to this one. This is the entrepreneurship development policy. So was development country versus developing countries. So I am going to discuss this topic through these basic topics: government support, technology and innovation, then education and training, like this. So first, government support. That developing countries government support is more established and extensive government support system is there. So, but for developing countries like Sri Lanka, so we have limited funding, and we have a weak regulatory framework. Our regulatory framework is very weak in the sense, so it is very difficult to investors to come here and start their business. So they have to face several. It is a complex process, that. So compared with the other developed countries, it's a complex process. So then, we can say that our regulatory framework is little weak compared to developed countries, and we have less access to resources. Resources in the sense both finance resources and other resources. So our access is limited when compared with the developed countries. And then focus on technology and innovation. If we consider the technology and innovation, developed countries, they use most advanced and sophisticated technology, and stronger focus on innovation. So in our case, we focus mostly on traditional sectors as I explained earlier, such as agriculture and tourism. We focus on those areas, but our concern on technology and other things is very little compared with the other developed countries. So then education training is also very important aspect for entrepreneurship development because you know that developed countries they have well established and better funded education system, but for in developing countries we have limited access to education and training resources. So that's also some barrier for us to develop our entrepreneurship. So, and then access to finance. Developing on developed countries entrepreneurs, so they struggle to access a large amount of capital required to scale their businesses. But on the other hand, the developing countries entrepreneurs may have little access to even basic forms of finance, so such as microloans and other things. It is, you know, that during this team especially, it is very difficult for us to go for loans and other things. Our interest rates are very high. So then, we have a limited access to even for other kind of facilities with the interest rate and other things. And then regulatory environment. It's regulatory environment is very difficult, very. I mean, the interest thing for an enterprise development policy framework. So if we have a sound and better environment, then we can start business, we can grow our business. But if we don't have a sound environment, so it is very difficult for us to maintain that culture. So it is very important. So in the context of foreign investments, if we do not have a sound environment system, sound legal and regulatory system in the country, so then it is very difficult for us to attract foreign investments. So without attracting foreign investments, countries like developing country like Sri Lanka, it's very difficult to grow our economy. And very difficult. So developed countries tend to have more established regulatory framework. They have established regulatory framework, but in our the developing countries like Sri Lanka, so may have less established regulatory framework that are more flexible and adaptable. So we'll move to that. So my main topic is relevant to the SOE sector. So we have three kind of institutions operating in Sri Lanka. First one is government institutes. You know that government institutes includes all ministries, all departments under the control of the government. So, and then non-government institutes, those are private institutions. We know that several non-government organizations are operating in Sri Lanka currently. And then the final one is semi-government institutes. That's my topic today. So semi-government institutes mean the state-owned enterprises. We'll see what are those. So then state-owned enterprises, you know that state-owned enterprises are basically three kinds. In fact, our state-owned enterprises monitored by the General Treasury. In fact, one organization is National Budget Department and the other one is Public Enterprise Department, where I work. So then here I mentioned statutory boards. 48 is operating by us by the Public Enterprise Department, and we want 39 commercial corporations, and we want 50 government-owned companies. Those all are relevant to the state-owned enterprises which are engaged in business activities other than statutory boards. So then altogether it comes around 137, but we have all more than 230, both covering by Public Enterprise Department and the Budget Department. And other than that, I can say that we have more than 400 public enterprises, state-owned enterprises. That includes subsidies and sub-subsidies. So subsidies, you know that, for example, if you take Port Authority, so under that there may be some subsidies. That means those subsidies may belong to Port Authority 100% or sometimes below 50%. So anyway, those are called subsidies. And then there are sub-subsidies. that subsidy has invested in some other subsidies, then it is a sub-subsidy for the main company, main corporation. So likewise, we have a number of institutions. So we'll see. This is how state sector enterprises contribute for the development of Sri Lanka, entrepreneurship development. So you know that first, if you take workforce, so around I think around I think 250,000 employees are working in the state semi-government sector, and more than 1 million employees are in the government sector. So then, so entrepreneurship includes then capital. We have to provide capital, and also research and developments, and then they have their own mission, goals, and missions, and then their processes, activities. So markets, innovations. They are providing jobs and improving their skills, and then they're doing businesses, and then they earn money. And then after earning money, so then the surplus they have to again transfer to the considered fund. So likewise, state-owned sector SOEs, they are also contributing the entrepreneurship development process in the country. And then we'll see. So contribution of SOEs for entrepreneurship development in Sri Lanka. So then contribution is in several kinds. First one, if you take first one, then funding, providing funding. So SOEs can provide funding to enterprises, especially those in the early stage of their business. So in the form of loans, grants, or equity investment, the government has to provide funds, and then SOEs also can provide funding for to enterprises. If for example, if we start a business, then so then SOEs can provide loans and grants, and then provide, and then they can contribute for the equity capital. So that from my next slides, I will explain it a little bit elaborately. So then offering mentorship and guidance, and some SOEs also provide guidance and mentorship to entrepreneurs starting their enterprise and starting their business, and then improve their businesses. And then thereafter, the third one, providing access to markets. Under that, the SOEs have a strong presence. Entrepreneurs find customers and grow their business. So then some SOEs they found they help to other SOEs or other government organizations to improve their markets then and access to the market. So by that way, the SOEs can contribute to the entrepreneurship development in the country. And then fourth item is creating supply chain opportunities. So SOEs can create opportunities. I will give some examples by my next slide. So then creating supply chain opportunities, SOEs can create opportunities for entrepreneurs by opening up their supply chains to access raw materials and other kind of inputs, and then offering training and skills development. So then SOEs can also provide training and skill development opportunities to entrepreneurs. So with the aim is to build their capacity and improve the quality of their products. So you'll see the next slide. I will give some examples. With the examples, then the first one we discussed that providing of funds. So then you know that DFCC Bank is a state-owned enterprise. It's 100% government-owned entity. The DFCC Bank, our housing ministry. Yeah, the ministry is the housing ministry. So then Development Finance Bank is 100% government company. So they provide funding to enterprises. They offer a range of financing options, like they offer loans. They are providing leasing facilities, and they are also contributing equity for other SOEs, and they help. They act as a mentorship sometimes, and they provide advisory services for the SOEs to grow and they improve their businesses. So likewise, the second one is offering mentorship and guidance. So if you take EDB, mean Export Development Board, I will just explain the role of the Export Development later. So then Export Development Board, so they promote exports. So then EDB offers mentorship and guidance to entrepreneurs, including skills and knowledge. So, and they also provide. They also help to access to required success in international markets, and then market intelligence and business matching services. They also help to entrepreneurs to identify new opportunities. So likewise, EDB helps to SOEs by way of providing mentorship and guidance. And then if you take that access to markets, providing access to markets, the one good example is SLT. You know that SLT is now today, so most people are talking because you know that there is a share issue on that SLT. That enterprise is now going to sell in the stock market in the future. So most famous topic today. So the Nestlé has partnered with the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. By partnering with Ceylon Corporation, they launch innovative startups and entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. So then they offer services to help entrepreneurship, such as they providing web hosting, e-commerce solutions, and online marketing. And then final one is the creating supply chain opportunities. So you know that CPC is also a current topic today. CPC operates a network fuel stations across Sri Lanka. So CPC has launched a program to support SMEs by offering opportunity to become a supplier of non-fuel items. You know that if you go to CPC fuel station, so you can find that they offer certain products and they offer certain services. That those are non-petroleum, non-petroleum products, non-fuel products. So you can find some grocery, small groceries are there. You can see them. So likewise, they are providing supply chain opportunities. So this one will help small and medium enterprises to expand their customer base, to expand their market. Then so also can contribute offering training and skill development. So a good example is SITA, the Sri Lanka Institute of Textile and Apparel. They provide training and skills development to entrepreneurs in the textile apparel sector. So also they provide design, production, and marketing services. So and also advisory services to help entrepreneurs to improve the quality of their products and also to develop their designs and develop their markets, improve their markets also. So then, so as I mentioned that I will just little bit explain about the IDB. So Industrial Development Board, and then Export Development Board, and then BTA. So then first topic, you know that access to funding. IDB offers various funding schemes and financial assistance programs to entrepreneurs, particularly those in the industrial sector. We know that the IDB provide loans, guarantees for start up the business, and also they offer financial support for upgrading or modernizing the existing enterprises. They provide financial assistance also. And then under technical assistance, IDB provide technical assistance and training programs to enterprises, so aimed at enhancing their skills and knowledge in areas such as business management, marketing, and technology. So by offering, they also offer consultant services, training workshops, and mentorship programs. So then under access to markets, IDB provide market information and advisory services to entrepreneurs, helping them to identify and tap into local and international markets. They find the the places and the markets, and then they inform to the SOE sector, and they inform the entrepreneurs. So and then fill the gap. This includes providing access to trade fairs and exhibitions and business matching events. Also, they engage in research and intelligence services, which is very, very important thing. So in our case, research and development in Sri Lanka, we know that it's we are comparing with the developed countries. Our research and developments are very, very poor, I think. So research and development is one basic important thing in the context of the entrepreneurship development of any country. So then supporting innovation and innovation and technology. So then IDB provide innovation and technology development in the industrial sector. So by offering, they offer, as I mentioned earlier, financial support for research and development activities, one which is very, very important thing. Supporting technology transfer and commercialization is also a very good thing in the present context. So and then under advocating for entrepreneurship development, IDB works closely with the government agencies and stakeholders to advocate for policies and programs that support entrepreneurship and industrial development in Sri Lanka. So under that, it includes regulatory reforms. They provide advice on regulatory reforms. They're promoting public-private PPPs, public-private partnerships, and supporting the development of entrepreneurs ecosystem. Then contribution of export development, EDB. So EDB also provide trainings and advisory services, and they provide advisory services such as export procedures, state regulations, and product quality and standards. And under the product development and innovation, they offer financial assistance and technical support for R&D activities. And then under financial, under access to finance, they offer loan, grants, and other financial assistance programs. And then financing, they also help providing financing and investment opportunities. And then under advocating for entrepreneurship development, EDB closely work with other government agencies and stakeholders to advocate for policies and programs, and provide advocating for regulatory reforms and promoting. They also promote public-private partnership (PPP), and then facilitate market access. So they provide information on market opportunities and trade affairs like IDB. So then and exhibitions, they organize all these things, and they offer support for market research and product development and branding. So then another SOE is VTA, government institution, that is VTA, Vocational Training Authority. They also provide training facilities such as carpentry, welding works, and electrical and electronic engineering, construction, and hospitality services. They provide all the training facilities. So then they also provide self-employment opportunities for students. So BT offers training and support for self-employment, including entrepreneurship development training, business planning and management, and access to finance. Basically, the VTA provide they facilitate to enhance our education system and knowledge, and they increase our knowledge and skills. So then, when we go to support rural development, VTA closely work with rural communities to support entrepreneurship development. So how they support, they offer training and advisory services to rural enterprises, and they support the development of rural industries, and they also promote technology transfer and innovation in rural areas. And then they offer apprenticeship and internship also for facilities also. They provide trainings to enhance their the practical skills and improve their knowledge. In order to improve their knowledge, they organize those apprenticeship and internship programs. So then finally, supporting industry partnership. VTA works closely with industries to support the development and skills of knowledge among workers, and also promote technology transfer and innovation in the workplace. So by offering training programs and then technical support to industry partners. So they collaborate with certain industries and enterprises, and then they create a link between those who require the necessary skills and knowledge and the entity. So then through that so we can improve our entrepreneurs' knowledge and experience and entrepreneurs' skills. We can improve it. Finally, that will help to develop the entrepreneurship in the country. So then this is my final topic today. So challenges to implement entrepreneurship development policy in Sri Lanka. So first challenge is limited access to finance. In fact, this is a major challenge. Not this is not relevant for the Sri Lanka, but also for all developing countries. It's I think very very challengeable thing. You know that access to finance in the present situation is very difficult. So you know that all developing countries with that COVID pandemic situations, now the economic soundness is now, you know, that economic situation is not favorable, not good. So therefore, it is a very important area. We have to focus on that. How can we access to finance? How can we improve our finance? How can you contribute for your enterprise development? How can you invest in your enterprises in the country? So then the big entrepreneurship ecosystem. You know that the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Sri Lanka is still relatively weak. When we compare with that other countries, it is very weak. So as I explained that we have a limited support service available for to entrepreneurs to develop. So infrastructure facility is very important. See, once you develop our infrastructure, then it is very easy to entrepreneurs to develop their business, and it is easy to attract investors. It is easy to attract new capital and especially physical capital and also human capital. So then, if you have a big entrepreneurship ecosystem, then that means you are in trouble in developing the entrepreneurship programs in the country. And then innovation. The third one is innovation in especially in Sri Lanka and especially for developing countries. We know that innovation is limited because of the limitations of the innovation system. So we have faced several issues. So you know that our research and development is very in low level compared with the developed countries. So I know that when we were in Japan, so they are always doing research and development. Research, you know that Basanta, you know very well how they do research and development things. So it is I think very common for all developed countries, but it's common. Similarly, it's common for all developing countries. Our lack of innovation and lack of research and other things is very limited in developing countries. So therefore, government needs to invest in R&D activities to promote innovation through policies and programs that encourage entrepreneurship in technology and other high growth sectors. We know that so our technology is also, when you compare with the developed countries, our technology is also behind very low situation. And then regulatory challenges. So we know that our regulatory environment is very complex and often difficult for entrepreneurs to enter into business, and especially for foreigners, especially for foreign direct investment. So we have to face. So they have to face a number of issues. So for example, some bureaucracy is also there. So then regulatory environment is also very important for country to increase their entrepreneurship. So to attract foreign direct investments and to attract and to find customers and to also, and in fact for all business activities, regulatory environment is very important. If we have a weak regulatory system, weak regulatory environment, then we can't talk about that entrepreneur. So we can talk about the enterprises improvement and other things. And then lack of entrepreneurial education is also important. So in our case also, we have not yet widely available, we have not yet developed education system, especially. So we know that there is a gap between the what we are teaching and the job market requires. There is a gap, so we have to fill that gap. Therefore, the government needs to promote entrepreneurship education in schools and university level also. So that part, I think we have not started. But in fact, now we are now starting. So, but for developed countries, they have already started, and their education system is, so they depend on those requirements. So our requirements and the job opportunities, there is a gap between that. So what we have, our education and knowledge and experience we have gathered, and the job market requirements are different. So we have to arrange. We have to provide education system as per the job market requirements. So those are the challenges we are facing now. With that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Vasanta, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you very much for all participants.
Okay, thank you all of you. And finally, I want to deliver the vote of thanks speech. First, actually, I would like to give my heartiest thanks our two resource person, Mr. Mukesh, my friend, and also Dr. Neil. Actually, you did a very great job today, and Mr. Mukesh, for entire Sri Lankan, I would give my thanks to you. Actually, I personally know you sacrifice many days for collecting information and arranging those things. So we had a lot of discussion regarding this. And also our Dr. Neil, he also contributed, he also sacrificed many days to collecting information. So thanks both of you. And also I would like to give my thanks our secretary, Asoko sir, so who help us to organize this kind of webinar, and also our DG, Vijay Kon sir, who always giving advice and communicating to us to encourage us conducting this kind of seminar. And also all my SLIDA back support staff. There are many person who involved to successful this program. So I am also remind them, and they are did very good job as a back support person. So thank all of you to success this program. Finally, thanks all my participants and your valuable questions. Okay, due to time limitation, we wind the session from now because we are running behind the scheduled time. So thank all of you. Thank you so much.